Gentlemen, we have called you together to inform you that we are going to overthrow the United States government. You still think that jet fuel brought down the World Trade Center? Does anybody else see a problem here? If the government has nothing to hide, why are they so afraid to answer a few questions? This story does not add up. Listen to me. Listen to your
the government. I mean, a bunch of phony, tough, and crazy brave people. That's not going to hurt the New World Order. Getting rid of the Federal Reserve, arresting these head bankers who publicly committed crimes, that's going to do it. Look at this headline. Write a check to elect this man so he can fire you. And it goes to the fact that Ron Paul's getting the most donations from military and government. That's because they know. They know there's no future if you don't turn this around. Okay, that's coming up a little bit more here. This is going to be a 3-hour show if I don't shut up. There's so much coming up. But shifting gears into other news now. Obama admin seals records on murdered Border Patrol agent implicated in Fast and Furious. They've already been caught shipping drugs in, shipping guns out. I mean, this is a mafia. This is Chicago mafia. The Chicago Mercantile now is saying, yeah, we'll let MF Global take people's private accounts. I mean, people keep getting shocked. Thomas Jefferson said, you will live under whatever level of tyranny you put up with. There's always going to be crooks that want to rob you and scam you if you let them. I mean, of course. I mean, if you go out in the middle of a wolf-infested Montana and tie yourself to a tree and slice yourself open, wolves are going to come and eat you. I mean, you roll over and say, eat my guts. Here, I'm a prey animal. They're going to come. And look at Chicago. Look at New York where the mafia runs everything. There's a total gun ban on the general citizens because they're crooks. Crooks want disarmed prey. What's the first thing a bank robber does? He says, put your hands up, and they make the security guard give them their gun. Criminal government takes over. First thing they say is, turn the guns in right here. You're going to take care of you. All right. Continuing here. Again, here's that article I just mentioned. Write a check to elect Ron Paul so he can fire you. Among GOP presidential hopefuls, the Texas Libertarian leads in donations from federal employees. And, of course, it's skewed because he gets 70+% of the military donations. And that's in the numbers, but they don't really mention that. But again, that's the good news. That scares the globalists. The military likes Ron Paul. A guy that says, end all these wars, bring the troops home. Oh, but you're always told the troops want the war. It's like, support our troops. They want the war to continue. And they put a few PSYOP guys on TV for you. So they're totally freaking out over that. Continuing here, Bloomberg also reports 6 central banks led by Fed cut dollar funding costs to ease debt crisis. This is that's pretty funny, Marcos. This is the Federal Reserve, I guess, pissing our money away. And it says 6 central banks led by the Federal Reserve made it cheaper for banks to borrow dollars in emergencies in a global effort to ease Europe's sovereign debt crisis. So it was already basically at 0%. So as Max Kaiser pointed out, now I guess, for mid-sized banks, it's at 0.1, but for others, it's negative. They just give you money, and then they loan it out at 10, 15, 20%. So it's free money. And, of course, we have to then basically back all of that. And it overall devalues the dollar. Continuing with crooks here, Hank Paulson, the guy that got a White House waiver, and when his own waiver didn't hold up, gave himself hundreds of millions of dollars, literally burning the value of our dollar there. Now it's turned out that he gave hedge fund inside information on Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae when he was Treasury Secretary. We'll talk to Ted Anderson about this coming up later. Just incredible insider trading. But when the top leaders of Congress got caught, actually insider trading inside the Capitol, totally legal, they said, well, we're above the law. And if you don't like that, we'll have the Army arrest you. I mean, they're like, we're crooks. Have the Army arrest them. That's what third world countries do. A president, it always happens, gets caught stealing some money. Venezuela, Nicaragua, wherever it is, you see it all the time. They just say, I'm calling out the military. And sometimes the military says, I'm going to be the president. That's all we've come to here. And that's what they're getting ready for. America hadn't been perfect, but it's been successful because it had the lowest level of corruption. Still wild and rampant, but compared to other countries, it was low. Mainly because the average American, if you tried to steal from them, would kill you. Not the case anymore. And that's why we're so enslaved. Oh, yeah, you think they'd all be slaves down in Mexico to the El Jefes if they had a history of a Second Amendment? No. Again, the answer is arm the general public and liberty will abound. Thomas Jefferson. Okay, continuing here. We learned about the 16-plus trill the Federal Reserve gave their buddies in the last few years. Now, Forbes reports, we didn't know about the Fed's $7.7 trillion that they gave others, including $1.2 trillion in a single day. Isn't that just special? Now, speaking of torture, you know how many TSA agents, it's in the thousands now, have been arrested raping, pedophilia, stealing money, raping people in car garages in uniform, planting drugs on people, stealing money from people. I mean, who else wants a job sitting in microwave ovens all day and grabbing people's genitals? I mean, either you're an idiot, desperate for a job, or you're a pervert. And now they've got inside whistleblowers coming out. The Courthouse News is reporting, as well as prisonplanet.com, that you know, they try to tell other federal agencies that are charged with investigating this, and they get suspended. This is the new brown shirt group that's going to be turned out on the streets of America. They already are. So they've got to be a group of real saucy pervs and people. So they've got to be protected. They've got to get the idea that they're invincible, that it's their, what was I told? Their administrative privilege to rape a woman in a parking garage. Okay? And if you don't like it, the Army's standing by to disappear you. Worked in communist Russia, why not here? NKVD over America. Continuing, a foreclosure fraud whistleblower who was basically ordered by her superiors reportedly to sign thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of false documents, has been found dead. And they're not sure. We're not sure. They say suicide or natural causes. Certainly she wasn't killed. Sure. Continuing, movers and deputies refused to evict a 103-year-old woman. We have an audio clip on that coming up in a minute. But you know, the issue is with a lot of these houses, the people aren't even upside down in them, or the banks actually don't even own the house. We don't know the particulars in this case, but you know, they're talking about bulldozing hundreds of thousands of houses around the country rather than letting people stay in them. And you know, what are you going to do, throw her on the street and say, oh, she's lazy and homeless, just let her die? Let's go ahead and play that news clip where the sheriff's deputies refused to do it.
Fulton County Sheriff deputies and movers showed up today after Deutsche Bank planned to kick the family out. The moving company and the deputies took one look at Miss Lee and decided this would not happen today.
Isn't that just special? What, will they give her a week or two to find some place to go and the rest of the family? But the point is, at least they showed some humanity. A lot of times when people even argue or whatever, they'll just taser an old person. But that's basic human activity being shown by those police. And they better show it because they're going to end up in the same position. I mean, this country is to be fully financially broken, so we all become dependent on government. That's the globalist admitted plan. And cops, military, citizens, lawyers, doctors, video editors, talk show hosts, we're all in the same boat. Preachers, imams, rabbis, produce people, farmers, auto mechanics, defense contractors. We're all in the same boat together. Here's another article out of Press TV. Queen to deduct wages if workers strike. Queen Elizabeth II has threatened staff at Buckingham Palace that she will deduct the wages of staff who join the nationwide strike action. This is a woman who gets billions in government subsidies every few years, and who last year while they were kicking old people off during the freezing winter off their gas ration, one of the coldest winters since 1643, was it? That she was getting millions of pounds a year with her hundreds of different palaces, complexes. She has over 100 palaces, and some of them have thousands of total rooms, you know, dozens of buildings per facility, that she was getting welfare gas to heat it all. While the old people, it was reported, were getting on buses and riding around all night just to stay warm. When it was sub-zero, 20, 30 below zero. I mean, this is the type of scum these parasites are. And they're not even English. They're not even British. I mean, that's another thing. I mean, it's incredible. They're from Transylvania. You can't make this stuff up. Continuing here, ladies and gentlemen, Occupy Montreal protesters branded by police. And I've got a bunch of other reports. Kevin Booth called me today. He's going to get some footage of it in L.A. They're taking people to the Dodgers Stadium, and the feds and Homeland Security are running arrests all over the country and beating people on the heads and everything. Just absolutely incredible. They tried to co-opt Occupy. They couldn't. So now Obama is orchestrating all of this. Absolutely incredible. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and go to the next piece of information now. Stay with us. With more on these incredibly dangerous developments, we're going to go to Stuart Rhodes. He's a constitutional lawyer who won awards at Yale for his reports and papers on the Belligerent Act and the whole enemy combatant question. In fact, the paper was titled Solving the Puzzle of Enemy Combatant Status back in 2004. He also, of course, worked in Congress for Ron Paul, and he's the founder of Oath Keepers. He's an Army paratrooper veteran himself. And again, I saw mainstream articles last night and this morning saying that the bill passed, the amendment passed, and I rarely get caught up in something, but then later I learned it didn't pass. It was just that it's passed out of committee and that they're trying to bring cloture so there can't be a debate on it or a filibuster. We're going to get Stuart to talk about that. And the amendment failed. The amendment failed, but this is just incredible. And if it goes through the Senate, then I guess it'll go on to the president, who claims he's going to veto it. But the president's already declared the power to kill American citizens, as they've already done with the Lockheed in that staged event to set the precedent. They've already said they can secretly arrest people and detain them. He said last year, I don't need this legislation. I'll do it through the executive. So it's a lot of politicking to manipulate the public. As one congressman, Amash, said, this is carefully crafted to mislead the public. A week ago, they would say, oh, this doesn't affect citizens, because one provision says that. But then the other provision says, but it does if we say so, basically. Now, an expert, I mean, you couldn't think of a better one, military guy, constitutional law scholar, won awards for his research on this, worked for Ron Paul, knows Congress, knows all the Byzantine things that are going on. Stuart Rhodes can break this down for us. But there's the latest article. Indefinite detention bill set for final vote Thursday. Senate moves to limit debate on unconstitutional legislation. That's up on Infowars.com, the latest there. But again, last night I heard it passed, got up this morning, read articles, said it passed. That's the mainstream media. I've got to learn to just believe nothing they say. It's so incredible. I remember 4 years ago when NATO attacked the Russian-held area of South Ossetia and Abkhazia. For 2 hours, I was reporting, well, the Russians attacked it. Can't believe they did, because CNN was saying it. Turned out it was NATO attacked. I mean, it's just that even I get caught up in their lies. I mean, it's incredible. It's incredible. Stuart Rhodes, great to have you here with us, my friend.
Thank you, Alex, very much.
Okay, so you wrote the papers on this. You've been an expert on this. You pointed out before we went live here, the Belligerent Act is really McCain's real holy grail, where if you're just belligerent, you disappear into a black hole. So now they're trying to get it piecemeal. Break this down.
Well, yeah, in the 2010 Belligerent Detention Act, he wanted the language to read that if you commit an act of belligerence and warfare or any other act of terrorism against the United States, then you could be, if you're just accused of that by someone in the executive branch, you could be whisked away into military detention, no grand jury indictment, no trial in front of a jury of your peers, just taken off to Guantanamo. He didn't quite get what he wanted, but what he's doing here is getting what he can. He's attaching this, making this part of the defense appropriations bill, which no one wants to vote against, or they're just, described as being against the troops, and he talked a Democrat, Levin, into proposing it. But really, it's McCain's baby, and this is him getting what he can. What he's going to get out of this bill, if it passes, is Section 1031. The first part of it does apply to U.S. citizens, because it says that any person, a covered person under this section is any person who is accused of participating in 9/11 or aiding those who did it, or is accused of being part of Al-Qaeda or an allied group or supporting one of those organizations.